I'm not an expert on Hamas, and I don't want to pretend to be. What I would say is the following. When Hamas was elected, it was not necessarily because people agreed with its political or ideological orientation. The Palestinian Authority, the successor to the PLO, was riddled with corruption, and the people in the occupied Palestinian territories had grown disaffected from the Palestinian Authority, and they elected Hamas, not, as I said, necessarily because of its ideology or because of its political inclinations, but because it was, relatively speaking, an honest organization. The militants and the leadership lived simple lives. They were willing to give up their lives for their convictions, and they ran in apparently a quite honest way a lot of the social institutions in the Gaza Strip, the charitable organizations. And it was on that basis that they won those parliamentary elections. Now, it's also true that they became, over time, very repressive, and they had alienated a large part of the Gaza population, and as I understand it, there was also degrees of privilege, economic privilege, that they now enjoyed, which caused resentment among the rest of the population. But the bottom line is, they were never given a chance. And for those of you who know history, that's quite common. When the Popular Unity government was elected in Chile in 1973, 1971, or I can't really remember, when Popular Unity was elected, it was a socialist coalition led by Salvador Allende. The United States took extreme offense at the result of the election, and Henry Kissinger, who was the Secretary of State at the time, said, quote, "We are going to make the economy scream. We are going to make the economy scream. We are going to cause so much dissatisfaction that the people of Chile will overthrow the government," which is what they did on September 11th, 1973. The same thing happened with Cuba, with the blockade imposed on Cuba, except in that case, even though they made the economy scream, the government was not overthrown. They did the same thing with Nicaragua, the Sandinistas, and that eventually succeeded. And in 1990, the Sandinistas were voted out of power. So that's a very common tactic. And so I won't pass judgment on Hamas. Oh, and the same thing, I should say, happened in Egypt with Morsi. In his election, there was effectively a capital strike in Egypt to destroy the economy and create the discontent, which would then be exploited to eject the Muslim Brotherhood from power in Egypt. So I don't want to pass judgment on Hamas as a government, which is separate from its ideology and its political inclinations. As a government, it was never given a chance. The day after it was elected, the brutal blockade was imposed on Gaza.